Welcome back to Inner Peace, Better Health, where inner awareness meets better living. I'm your host, Sayan, and we know how it feels, when deadlines start to, stack up, decisions that need to be made almost like immediately, uncertainty about the future, or a constant feeling of being on while trying not to fall behind. And today's conversation is exactly that and how we need to respond to that degree of pressure. My guest today, Michael Dugan, has spent decades helping people stay steady when the heat is on. He's the author of Turning Snowflakes into Diamonds and the creator of the Becoming Diamond Framework, which is all about turning that pressure into clarity instead of collapsing amidst all of that. With over 20,000 hours of training inside high pressure environments, Michael teaches how to master emotions, build real confidence, and stay grounded in an age shaped by AI and constant change. So, guys, if you're feeling stretched, tested, or maybe even uncertain right now, this is the sign. Welcome to the show, Michael. It's an absolute honor to have you here with me today.
Oh, Sayan, the honor is mine. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Michael. And before we get into the frameworks and the fancy strategies, I actually want to start with a simple but very important question. I feel like is because most of us don't know how to tell the difference between the two. Is that what's according to you? What separates pressure, that sharpens us from the pressure that shatters us? Where's that line exactly?
Yeah. Well, for me, it was when I talk about the subtitle of turning snowflakes into diamonds, turning pressure into power in the age of AI. And it's about reframing. So because this is about inner peace and better health and awareness and consciousness, that when a person is unconscious, their perspective oftentimes defaults singular perspective, and they default to their survival perspective, their protective perspective, their ego perspective. And so I tell people that whenever we can entertain a perspective, just by entertaining it, I don't have to eat the food, just entertain a perspective, it can heal us. So that would be simply known as a reframe, like reframing a picture, just putting a different frame on the picture so the picture looks differently. So the snowflake is a soft human being. It's a human being that grew up in a privileged country or in a privileged situation. And after decades of having it so good, they don't know how good they had it because they've had it good for so long that what happens is they take it for granted. For somebody that grows up in strife and struggle, they grow stronger just by their environment. So because AI is taking away jobs right now, and because robotization is taking away jobs and business disruptors and dematerialization, a lot of people I think are probably have anxiety at least a micro level with the future.
Yeah.
And so right now, the diamond metaphor is a conscious human being and to give a new identity for consciousness. So the metaphor is that what makes a diamond is pressure. And that's the reframe. And that's the new perspective for anybody that resonates with this message that all pressure is good. All pressure is for your benefit. All pressure is for the benefit of your biological self and your soul. And so the line in love, even though this is reversed, I said love is the answer. The job is to love all experiences equally. And that's difficult for the ego to do, but to also love pressure, because the more you love it, the more you integrate with it, the more creativity you have.
Hmm. Yeah, that's a totally, I would say, honest take about how much of us should embrace that kind of pressure, no matter how hard it feels at the moment, right? And I think that distinction really reframes pressure for something to escape into something to master, right? Is what he said, and I think that idea is well initially uncomfortable for a lot of us in the early days because it asks us to look at how we have been relating to difficulty, not just how much of it we are under. And that brings me to your book, Snowflakes to Diamonds, Michael, where you challenge modern fragility. Where do you think we have misunderstood resilience as a culture altogether?
Yes, it was. Well, oftentimes, just a disclaimer is my perspective is simply my perspective. It doesn't mean that it's right. It's just the one that resonates with me at this time. But the ego wants to survive. So the ego's job is to keep us alive. So the ego likes certainty, and certainty means safety. And so, like a person in the US, when they drive to work the same way each day, that brings them certainty. Or when they go to their favorite restaurant, that brings them certainty. Or when they eat their favorite food at that restaurant, that brings them certainty. So the certainty is the comfort zone, And so the ego likes the known, and the ego does not like the unknown. The ego does not like change, because what happens in the unknown is where you could die. And so this is learning to love into the unknown. So I think it's innate, natural for the ego to resist the unknown. And because they resist the unknown, they stay in certainty. So they don't develop that strong resilience. But when you learn to love into the unknown, you learn to really, really embrace, because literally, if you look at it from a level of quantum or a level of atomic mass or a level of everything is energy, everything is changing. Just because we don't see a change does not mean it's changing. And so what happens is every moment, people change, your partner changes, your kids change. So every moment is the unknown. So learning to love into the unknown, I think, is one of the greatest skills that a diamond would. And once again, a diamond is simply a metaphor for a conscious, empowered human being. A human being years ago, I read a book and it said, if you want to help the earth, which I did, they said, all I have to do is make myself better because I'm part of the earth. And if I want to make my country better, all I have to do is make myself better. And if I want to make my family better, all I have to do is make myself better. Well, what does that mean? Make myself better. And for me, that means being a more conscious human being. Because whenever we're in survival, we separate. Like if you look at a jail on a television show in the US, people are going to separate according to color. They're going to separate because they're at the base survival level. But when we're conscious, we all get along. When we're conscious, we understand, because for me as a sales trainer, the ego judges for the sake of survival, but the consciousness understands. And if we can just understand each other, that you came from a different culture than my culture, that doesn't make you wrong. That doesn't make me right. It just allows us to understand each other so that we can connect, because we're the same species on the same planet. So for me, when I look at the word love, love is a connection. A form of love is connection, and a form of separation, you might even say, is hate or resistance. So for me, I think resilience comes from coming into the unknown. And if you have it really, really good, a really good life, your ego can naturally go into certainty, and the certainty doesn't necessarily give us resilience. We have to go into uncertainty or the unknown.
Wow, I love how you frame that, Michael. That perspective, I would say, is very provocative and also uncomfortable in the best way, right? Because I think it pushes against how a lot of us have been conditioned to think about things like safety or uncertainty, like you said, and control, and that especially feels relevant right now. And so I wanna go a little bit deeper into one of your strategies, which is becoming diamond framework, which emphasizes emotional intelligence and mastery. So I'm curious to know about what emotions do you think must be faced, right, with oneself and not just suppressed for true transformation?
Yeah. I mean, for me, we all have emotional habits. And years ago, I read or heard a book, I listened to them. I think it was called The Power of Habit, and how a gambler can get addicted to winning and addicted to losing. But what are they more addicted to? Are they more addicted to winning or losing? And most of the people will say winning, and I'll say subconsciously they want to lose more than they win. Consciously, they don't want to lose, but subconsciously, so they can get addicted to losing, and we can get addicted to emotional habits. So sometimes we know a human being that every day they're angry, or every day they're impatient, or every day they're a victim, or every day they're in apathy, or they're grief, or jealousy, or selfishness, or pride. And so these are just broad categories for emotions, and we have a tendency to demonize when we're in our ego. We can demonize countries, we can demonize people, we can demonize emotions. And we can say this is a good emotion and this is a bad emotion. But in the end, it's just an emotion. But some emotions are designed for survival, and some emotions are designed for abundance. So if a person has an emotional habit that's a survival emotion, that's where they want to start, is just to be aware of it. And that's where the simple saying that I'm sure you heard is that awareness is the first key to change. Yeah. If you're if you're not aware that you have an emotional habit of anger, you can't change it. So just by shining the light, when you look at awareness as consciousness, just by shining the light of awareness on it, it will make it start to dissolve. And then, so awareness is the first key to change, and acceptance is the second key to change. So for the listeners out there, if you have an automated habit, a survival emotion, I believe that change is every person's destiny. A diamond can be formed by nature, and most diamonds will be formed by nature. You're either going to grow or die. And if you grow, you become a diamond. If you die, you're probably a snowflake. And that's metaphoric. That's not literal. That's just metaphoric, because the diamonds have the resilience and they utilize the pressure to make themselves stronger. And so they have the new diamond identity that they're going to be strong. So emotional regulation is a skill that I decided to do 40 years ago when I was 23. And I don't like to date myself, but what it is what it is. So emotional regulation is mastering your emotions from the inside, where most people, when this happens outside of them, they get happy, or when this happens outside of them, they get mad or discontentful. Well, when you can emotionally regulate yourself, you change your vibration or your frequency, and you change your transmission out into the universe. So for me, a diamond as a master makes a decision to be emotional master and learn how to hold frequencies. And frequencies are like notes. So one more thoughts on emotions. Emotions are like the soundtrack. Emotions are the soundtrack to life. Just like if you had a Christopher Nolan movie or Steven Spielberg, emotions, what they do is emotions give life color. So there's nothing wrong with any emotion. All emotions are good, but if we have a survival emotion, like nothing's wrong with anger or jealousy or selfishness once in a while. But if I'm jealous every day, well, then I might want to look at it. If I'm angry every day, then I might want to look at it.
Mm, right. That thing about, I think is that we should always be open to at least ourselves first, right? Be or try to be that much aware of what is actually happening with me, right? So if I have anger issues, like you said, I might need to look well deep into that, right? And that balance, Michael, that you said between strength and presence really feels very critical right now, because what I'm noticing in a lot of people is that we have gotten good at holding it together on the outside. We stay functional, we keep we stay on the it looks like from outside someone might say that okay, he's really living his life right now, but from the inside we're really operating on this survival mode, like you said. So I want to talk a little bit about that perspective. I think that's where pressure can either numb us or wake us up, right? Like you said, either you become a diamond or you're going to turn into the snowflake. So, for someone who is currently overwhelmed by that pressure, um, what is the first shift that you would suggest that turns stress into some personal power?
Yeah, well, thank you, Sayan. It's for me, I created an acronym. For years ago, I taught the three B's. Now, the three B's for your listeners, because they're into it, are pretty simple: the body, the breath, and the brain. But in the book, I reframed it to the Swiss Army knife. Like a Swiss Army knife is a knife that was designed for the Swiss and is a multifunctional knife. So the biological machinery is a multifunctional machine, metaphorically. It's a beautiful machine, but it has electricity, it has pipes in it, has structure. So the biological organism, the first blade is the body. And whenever you're in stress, you want to pay attention to your body language, thus using like gravity defying gestures When you put your hands in the air, you're happier. They're defying gravity. When your eyebrows go up, you're happier. When you smile, you're happier. And so when your thumbs go up, you're happier. So the body and the hormones are 100% tied, not 99% tied. Now, whenever you pay attention to your body, it holds you in the present moment. But then you pay attention to your breath. Whenever you want to master your breath is with you from the second you're born to the second you die. Some people say your breath is literally your consciousness incarnated on this planet. So mastering the breath makes logical sense to me. And so there's so many techniques such as box breathing that the Navy SEALs use, hard focus breathing, breath of fire. You can use breath to invigorate you, or you can use breath to calm you down. And so whenever you pay attention to your breath, that pulls you in the present moment also. And then I believe that we're transmitters. So we are literally transmitting into this reality. And so what the biggest thing that speaks louder than our thoughts, louder than the pictures in my mind, would be the emotions. And what am I transmitting? So years ago, when I made a decision to master my emotions, I felt just exactly what you said. Maybe I looked calm on the outside, but inside I was not calm. And years ago, I was in a breakup and I was feeling grief. I had a broken heart. So I thought, okay, I'm going to meditate. So I meditated and my brain was completely quiet, but my body was still in grief. I still had grief at my hormones. So you have to get your hormones happy. You have to get, if you want true peace, your hormones have to be peaceful. And this is having the ability, it works in a gradient, a little step, a little step, a little step, a little step. Consciousness, I say that with consciousness comes capabilities. And so if you want more capabilities in life, you have to be more conscious. And so 1 second of consciousness is worthwhile. I want anybody that's listening to this, and thank you for listening, listeners, 1 second of consciousness is worthwhile. So if you're conscious for 1 second is worth it. Focusing on one breath is focus. Thinking one good thought is worth it. Focusing on your body for 1 second. And then the next day, maybe you do it twice. And then after a year, maybe you're doing it 365 times in a year, but maybe that's 365 seconds in a day. But then a year later, it doubles and it doubles. And I thought about this morning, and maybe this is why I thought about it. It came up. It's the simple aspect of exponential growth. And if you have a penny, a U.S. currency, the smallest piece of currency in the United States today, a penny, and if you double that penny every day, tomorrow we have 2, the next day 4, 8, and then so on. At the end of 31 days, you have almost $11 million. $11 million. And I'd like to say that all of the listeners out there, myself and you, Sayan, we're all pennies. We're all pennies. And if I have one more moment of consciousness tomorrow, I double. And I have another moment of consciousness the next day, I double. And I have another moment of consciousness, I double. And I'm not saying the math is accurate, but I'm saying the metaphor is accurate. Every second of consciousness you can have in a day matters. That eventually you're going to be calm on the inside and calm on the outside.
Mm. Well, that was really a very insightful conversation with you, Michael. My biggest takeaway from this conversation has been that, when I think the pressure isn't really the problem here. I think it's some sort of confusion internally. When we don't know what pressure is asking of us, it feels overwhelming. But while listening to you, I just came up with this that it's because change is everywhere, right? So if we need to thrive, we need to embrace that change, become a part of it. Just like you don't fight a wave, right? You flow with the wave in order to survive. And I think that's the same kind of intention or message behind any kind of pressure as well. Michael, thank you for this. You have brought a very grounded and human lens to a topic I would say that so many of people are quietly struggling with on a day-to-day basis. And so before we just wrap this off, Michael, I just want to ask you, for anyone who wants to purchase your book and know more about your work, where can they find you on?
Yeah, thank you for asking, Sayan. It was, there's Becoming Diamond, not Becoming Diamonds with an S, becomingdiamond.com. There's a website, and in the book, it's on Amazon, it's on Apple, and you could also get a copy of it on the website, becomingdiamond.com. There's a free 30-day diamond spread. And so what happens is there's 30 videos that coincide with the book. My hope is to give. And oftentimes I share with young people that there's an infinite amount of knowledge metaphorically right now. So whenever there's an infinite amount of something, it loses its value. And so there's a state, if they don't pay attention. And when people that are hungry for knowledge, or always consider the source, people that are hungry for knowledge, there's the free 30-day diamond spread. So if you log in, there's 30 days where you'll get like a 3-minute video each day to take you into a path, and maybe one or two of them will teach you something. If something makes sense to you, you have to put it into your life to see if it works or not. And that's called proving it out. I'm on TikTok, I'm on Instagram. You can find a Facebook group, Turning Snowflakes into Diamonds, and nothing but wishing of abundance and love for the listeners and for you too, Sayan. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Well, thank you so much, Michael. It was a pleasure to get to talk to you about this. And for my dear listeners, I'll include the links in the show notes, so you can grab his book and explore his book anytime at your own convenience. And with that, we hit today's mark on this episode with Michael. I think if pressure feels heavy in your life right now, try not to escape it. Try to be aware of, where is it slowing you down, right? I think that's the first step, like Michael said. And today's conversation reminded us that diamonds aren't formed despite pressure, but they're formed really because of it. And when we learn to stay present instead of reactive, that same heat that once felt overwhelming can become the force that clarifies who we are becoming. So thank you. Thank you for spending this time with us. And if this episode resonated with you, share it with someone who might be navigating pressure in their own life right now. And guys, if you're finding value in these kind of conversations, make sure to follow Inner Peace Better Health so you don't miss out the future episodes. Until next time, this has been Inner Peace Better Health, where inner awareness meets better living.